Dear colleagues, sorry for this inconvenience about this presentation. Apparently, the presenter fell ill and we could not get her voice over, but we are going to do this one, and then we will continue with our next presentation. Good day, colleagues. I see our new presenter arrived, and I want to welcome Dr. Christian. I want to say his surname, but I'm so scared I'm pronouncing it wrongly. But I will try like Ugu. Now, let you help me, and then you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Welcome to you and to other presenters. And we would like you to join us now. We are very exciting to hear about the assessment of preschool practitioners, because assessment is always a huge topic, especially from birth to 6 years old. And I think this will be very interesting. And then at the end, we will allow a few minutes for questions. So thank you, Doctor. If you can then share your screen, and then you can start your presentation.
Okay, thank you, the chair, my fellow presenters, and the participants. Yeah, my name is Christian Sunday Ogwany, who is the presenter for this presentation. And my co-presenters are Professor Chichedu Ayokeke and Mrs. Charity C. Okeke. Actually, our presentation is bordered on assessment of preschool practitioners' classroom disciplinary practices and its implication for research. Yeah, literature has it that these foundation phase, the preschool actually harbors the children of tender age, and these children manifest different kinds of behaviors which may not be easily curtailed. And it has been noted that the issue or the idea of using corporal punishment in schools have been abolished for some times now. And one begin to ask, in the absence of corporal punishment, how will these preschool teachers manage the different behaviors exhibited by the preschoolers? And we also know that the preschool is the schooling environment for children before their formal enrollment into the primary section. And the fact that the foundation phase who exhibit different kind of behavior, then the preschoolers or the preschool practitioners have a lot of work to do in order to curtail such behavior. In such scenario, one would wonder, how would the preschool practitioners manage such behavior in the absence of corporal punishment? And this is actually what led the researchers into this research. Our research sought to assess quantitatively the preschool practitioners' classroom disciplinary practices, paying specific attention to the disciplinary practices strategies, the disciplinary strategies adopted by the preschoolers in the post-corporal punishment era. and how the classroom disciplinary strategies adopted by the preschool practitioners vary by the school type. The school type in this regard is the public and the private preschools. Then we came up with 2 research questions, of course, from our specific purposes. And one of them is, what are the classroom disciplinary strategies adopted by preschool practitioners in post-corporal punishment era? And the second one is, what is the influence of school type on the classroom disciplinary strategies adopted by preschool practitioners? And based on this, a low-known null hypothesis, which was tested at 5% probability levels, was formulated. And the statement is, there is no significant influence of school type on the classroom disciplinary strategies adopted by practitioners. Under the research methods, we have the, of course, I said earlier that this work is based on quantitative research approach. And specifically, we adopted descriptive survey research and ex post facto research designs. These are purely quantitative research approach designs. We adopted survey. In fact, we look at from a population of 2 teachers, which allowed us to take the opinion of few within the population of the study. And also, we used the ex post facto research design for the fact that we looked at the variation, whether the adoption of the disciplinary practices or strategies will differ based on the school type, which I said the school type here is either the public or the private preschools. So because of the fact that the public and private schools, we couldn't manipulate them, that is why we adopted ex post facto research design to supplement the main design, which is the descriptive survey research. Then this study involved 165 preschool practitioners in some preschools in the Nsukka Education Zone of Enugu State, Nigeria. This sample was arrived or drawn from the population using a purposive sampling technique. The essence of using purposive sampling technique was for the fact that the school type, which actually formed a variable for the study, necessitated the use of purposive sampling to enable us preschool practitioners from both public and private preschools. Then this we use with the preschool practitioners questionnaire. This instrument was a 34-item questionnaire scaled on 4-point response options of strongly agreed, agreed, disagree, and strongly disagreed. Before embarking on the field work, we subjected this instrument to face validation by experts in early childhood education and then experts in test and development, instrument development. We did that in order to ensure the validity of the instrument or the questionnaire, to make sure that actually the data we are going to collect are exactly what we intend to collect. Then, having done that, we equally trial tested this instrument, the questionnaire, by administering it on few preschool teachers outside the study area. We did that to make sure that that measure, the questionnaire, will be able to get or give us accurate data whenever it is used in the same situation. That is ensuring the reliability of the instrument. Then before we embark on data collection, we got ethical approval from Nigeria, of which where one of the main presenter, myself, is a full-time lecturer. the approval was granted by the research ethics of the Faculty of Education, University of Nigeria, and Nsukka. Thereafter, we solicited for permission from the head of schools of the preschools used or sampled for the study, in order to enable us gain access for the administration of the questionnaire. Permission we administer for analysis. Another analysis procedure we use to answer such question and the of independence to test the only null, and the results reveal that the classroom disciplinary strategies adopted by preschool practitioners in the post-corporal punishment review of disciplinary strategies the teachers we use for this study adopted. Moreover, the findings reveal that the school time is a potential moderator of the preschool practitioners' classroom disciplinary practice. What do you mean by this? We found out that the disciplinary practices used by the public preschool practitioners were more effective than those of the privates. The privates tended to be inclined to the corporal punishment, which has been abolished for some times now, and that has serious implication. The conclusion, we concluded that maintaining good classroom behavior of the preschoolers is dependent on the effective classroom disciplining strategies adopted by the preschool practitioners. And based on that, we recommended that the local government education authority should encourage all the preschool practitioners to use mostly those identified classroom disciplinary strategies for effective classroom behavior management of the preschoolers. Colleagues, this is the end of our presentation. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Prof. Christian. I would like first to give the other presenters also a chance if they wanted to just comment on the presentation. Prof. Okeke or Mrs. Okeke, if you want to say something first.
Thank you, the chairperson. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. You can continue.
Okay, thank you for giving the space. I think Dr. Christian, who is a postdoc fellow as well in the School of Education Studies of the University of the Free State, did a good presentation because he tried to use the available time to present the outcome of the research which we conducted, and I'm very pleased with what he has done. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, colleagues, good afternoon. I think we are well represented by Dr. Christian. It is Mrs. Okeke speaking, and I thank you, colleagues, for attending our presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And now we are open for any questions. If anyone have a question that you wanted to raise, I don't see there. I see a hand. Please continue, Angela.
Good afternoon, colleagues. Dr. Angela van Pleetsen. Look, I did enjoy your presentation and thank you very much, colleagues. Now, obviously, I absolutely agree that the disciplines, the strategies should be implemented. And the boundaries and the rules, it's the safest place to keep our children and to keep our adults. Now, my question is, okay, let's have discussion maybe. We know that corporal punishment, you may not touch child, that the policies, that the rule, you can actually be fired. But now, if we look at the reality, many of our African families, and not just African families, in South African context, like in Afrikaans family, parents still believes that the child should be punished and punished physically. And if this is the only language the child just understands, imagine the challenges now our practitioners, our teachers are experiencing by trying to put some strategies and rules and the discipline in place. And if the only language the child understands when the child feels pain. So how do we close this gap? Thank you.
Thank you. Do you want to reply, Dr. Christian?
Sorry, can I have the speaker repeat the question, please? It was a bit breaking. I may want to come in,
Yeah,
or other presenters as well.
Okay, let's try again. So in South African context, African families and even Afrikaans families, they still believe that children should be punished and punished physically. But the reality is that at ECD centers, at primary school levels, any school levels, teachers, practitioners, they may not use the physical punishment. So I do agree that children need to be disciplined, that boundaries and the rules keep everybody safe. So if the only language child understands, it's a physical punishment that he's experiencing at home, how are we going to close this gap where the teachers may not do it? Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for repeating the question. I think the first thing is that your concern, if I may use, a cause for the close partnership between the home and the school. And in doing so, parents should be motivated to draw themselves closer, because I'm aware, and speaking from experience from 2012, that it is quite difficult to find, with due respect, male ECD, ECCE researchers or practitioners. But then it calls for the preschool centers to draw parents, the family, closer, because the punishment style at school must be related to the punishment style at home. And given the fact that corporal punishment has been abrogated, then it falls on the preschool to draw parents, given the fact that some of the parents may not be literate, with due respect, so that it then becomes a continuation of teaching and learning for the preschools, not just for the kids in their care, but for the parents of the kids. In this way, I believe the gaps may begin to come closer. We may not bridge it entirely, because there are parents in their private corners who still believe that the only language of the child is corporal punishment. But such parents will have to be made to understand through workshops that are held in preschools. By the way, we always have the parents' meetings and the rest of them. And kids in their care must be made to report such abuse, because that's what we are dealing with now. And in this way, we are not saying that parents will be jailed, but the consciousness will be created that there is this alternative way of making the child to behave better. Thank you. I hope I answered.
Thank you. I totally agree with you. We do need to educate parents and educate children on their rights. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. I also agree, and all the stakeholders need to play their part. I'm going to allow 2 more questions, and then I need to go to the next presentation. So first it is Seliwe and then Corinne Meyer. Please continue.
Thank you so much. I'm Keliwe. Not that I'm gonna give an opinion as to what could be the best disciplinary measure, especially grade R and below, as I also come as an African from the background of a corporal punishment. But there are issues and challenges that I'm worried about. For example, we are not that sure of the emotional stability
of the teacher as well as the emotional stability of the parent at home, considering that children stay under child-headed families, and then there's unemployment, there's drunkenness, and so many other socio-economic challenges that one could find it difficult to claim that this parent can be responsible enough not to go beyond when it comes to insulting or even punishing this kind of a learner. It may be the same as the teacher, not that I'm saying that teachers are like that. That's my main concern, especially that I'm at the age of having grandchildren. I don't think it is working in this generation, because even if I'm talking to my grandchild, trying to reprimand, and then she will backchat in a very unexpected and maybe rude or other matter. So at some stage, we were a group of a family, there was a bereavement, and the group of 4, 5, 6-year-olds. And then one of my uncles, he was giving them corporal punishment. At some stage, 3 of them would come and say, why can't you beat us, Ndate Mulu? And the other ones, how can't you beat us? Which means that it was not working. I think that's all from me.
Okay, through you, Chair. I think that's where communication is important, especially with regards to establishing the emotional balance for the teacher and for the parent. I can tell you from experience that some parents don't just want to hear about a parents' evening at preschool, parents' meetings. And it is easy to get to establish some of these aspects when parents get to meet the teachers or practitioners at the preschool through meetings, through conferences, no matter how short such conference or meetings may be. And it's equally important to encourage the child to communicate. But also, I mean, we live in the era of social media. You just take a look at the airport while you wait for the flight, or at a bus rank, or even at the mall. Some persons will stop their trolley wherever and then spend some time on their cell phones. We live now in the era where the child is receiving less communication from the parent, because the parents are busy on the cell phone, sometimes talking to people they may never see in a year or two. And so you find out that the communication that's supposed to be happening between parents and their children, and between the parents of the child and the practitioner of that is looking after the child, that communication is not happening. But if we allow such communication to begin to happen and make ourselves available for parent, teacher, practitioner conferences or meetings, some of these emotional issues may be catered for. But also, sometimes I want to ask the very hard question. If I bring in race into it with due respect, you find out that we need more research to understand why some of these communicative aspects are working for some race, but not working for others. Perhaps I stop here. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, can I make a contribution?
Yes, please continue.
Okay, in response to your question on the key, you see, when you look at our result, you will see dialogues through discussion. And I can tell you that the key is verbal discipline, talking to the learners, especially at the preschool level. You know, we are looking at young children, preschool learners. They are too young. That we can't use any form of physical punishment or corporal punishment on them. And you know that corporal punishment is abolished in the system. And we are not talking about alternatives to corporal punishment. We're talking about positive discipline. And the key one currently is talking to the learners, disciplining the learners verbally. I don't mean verbal abuse. I don't mean verbal bullying. I mean verbal discipline. Talking to the learners in a calm, in a polite, and in a lovely way. I tell you, when you approach them calmly, when you talk to them lovely, they will understand and they will respond positively. So the key now that corporal punishment is out of the way is verbal discipline. And I mean positive discipline. And I still mean alternatives to corporal punishment. Any one of them can work. Thank you.
Thank you. And then our last participant that wants to raise the question, Prof. Corinne Meyer, I saw your hand was up and now it's down. Do you still want to ask a question?
Yes, ma'am. The last speaker that answered the question, I just want to link with that is that we need to really have research regarding cultures and the way they discipline, and then maybe just a caution for going forward is that we should refrain from stereotyping cultures with regards to their discipline type. It may be an historical one, but I think going forward we shouldn't or try not to stereotype cultures and their disciplining measures. And then I just also want to ask the presenter, if I'm correct, did you say that your sample was from private schools and public schools, or am I not right?
Yeah, you are right.
Okay, then my question, oh, sorry, sir. Then my question is, what was the difference in the disciplining measures that you found between these two samples, or wasn't there?
Yeah, actually, the hypothesis we tested showed that the preschool practitioners in public preschools use more of these strategies we identified than those of the private preschools.
All right, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. This was a very fruitful presentation, and I am thankful that there was assessment on the classroom discipline. I think it is very in need, and especially in our preschools, how to handle it, and that will lead that we need to involve all the stakeholders, and I think especially the parents that play a very important part. And as we end up to say that we need much more research where we then include the cultures and the discipline of each other, but that we will never forget that we are working with children and that we want to give them the best outcome that there is. The last minute will go then again to the presenters. You can continue. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. I just want to refer to reference the last speaker. If we want to do the kind of research that will produce the kind of data that will impact the kind of policy that we envisage, then we must be ready to ask the hard questions. I'm just thinking in terms of culture. Maybe I have to use a personal encounter, a personal experience as a student in the UK doing my master's degree. You know, coming out of the Sainsbury shop, like the Pick and Pay, I found a couple. They were having some arguments. And then, coincidentally, we were living at the same place in Northwest London. while we got home, they parked their vehicle. And I observed something that appeared to influence the way I want to live my life as a man and as a husband. I observed that the wife, was so upset that she gave a clap to the face of the man. And the man turned surprisingly to me and said, "Oh, you darling, take it easy." I was impressed because in Africa and myself, that hand that gave the clap on the face of an African man would have been chopped off. And so when we want to do research and we need a lot of research, when we talk in terms of disciplining practices, we need to go culture. I advise that bias must be avoided, but we need to be prepared to ask the hard questions. And we learn from good practice. What is it that is working for this family? And why is it not, or is it working for the other family? If that practice is good, why is it not working for the other family? And then in this way, the hard question will come. The cultural sensitivity will not be avoided, because that's where we want to get to. We talk of Jean Piaget, the psychologist, but we want to put it into the African context and see why Piaget may have worked very well somewhere in Europe, but why is it not working here? But why? So culture becomes very important, and we cannot run away from it. I really don't call it stereotyping. I call it learning from good practice. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Prof. We really appreciate your contribution. And then with this, we are going to end this session as we need to go into our next session. Thank you for all the participation of our colleagues, and thank you for your contribution. I just want to check if our next presenter, Ms. Kula, is part of the session. If she can just indicate to me, please. We cannot see you very clearly, but I want to welcome you. Our next presenter is going to take us through the challenges and barriers in the implementation of the multi-sectoral ECD policy in the Eastern Cape Province. And I think many of us interpret policies so differently, and it will be of excellent value if we can listen to your presentation. A warm welcome, and I'm going to give over to you. You can share the screen with us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. My name is Nonkubela Kavikula as the author, and Prof. Emmanuel Olushola Adu is the co-author. The title of my study is Challenges in the Implementation of the National Integrated Early Childhood Development Policy of 2015 in the Eastern Cape Province, South Africa. I have shared. Can anybody see my screen?
No, not yet. We cannot see your screen yet. We see you.
Zali.
Okay. Let me go back. Can you see my screen now?
No, not yet.
Open share screen. I wonder why doesn't it open? I keep on opening the screen, it doesn't.
And If you indicate sharing.
Yes, open share tray. Can you see me now? Can you see the screen?
No, we just see you. I'm just going to see if I can get some guidance how to assist you.
Okay. Okay, okay, I've opened the cadence.
I'm trying to share from my side, but I'm also not getting it right. Just a minute, we will try.
Where is the cup?
There are your presentation. If you want to share, and then I can just help you with the slides. Will that help?
We can see the slide now.
Ms. Kula, can I help you with the slides? Then you can present. You are muted. You must just unmute yourself, and then we can listen to you.
All right. The title of my presentation is Challenges into the Implementation of the National Integrated Early Childhood Development Policy of 2015 in the Eastern Cape Province, South Africa. Presentation layout. I'll start with the introduction and background, purpose of the study, methodology, the findings, discussions, conclusions, and end up with recommendations. In the introduction and background, this study was triggered by numerous global concerns about poor implementation of early childhood development, that is ECD policies, despite attempts by these countries to do so. In response to the global concerns, South Africa introduced the National Integrated Early Childhood Development policy, which is the NIECD policy in 2015. This policy consisted of 3 phases. The short-term phase, which is from 2015 to 2017. The medium term, can we go to the next slide? The medium term and the long term. The medium terms from 2018 to 2024, and the long term is from 2025 to 2030. The short-term implementation goals of the policy are the development of legal ECD frameworks, which are organization, structures, and institutional arrangement, planning, and funding mechanism. Maybe just to expatiate on this, as we will only, this study focuses only on the short-term implementation, which is from 2015 to 2017. And it is looking at the challenges and barriers encountered by the 3 lead departments. That is the Department of Social Development, Department of Health, and Department of Education in the Eastern Cape Province. Now, this is just the map that shows the map of South Africa, and it shows the Eastern Cape, which is in the eastern south of South Africa. Maybe just before we go to methodology, I just want to explain that this study is based on the theory of systems theory, that it looks into the input, the output, and the outcomes, because we are dealing with the integration of all these systems of the different departments. Methodology. A qualitative approach was adopted using a case study as the research design. This study adopted the interpretive paradigm since the researcher wanted detailed information from the participants. The study was conducted in 3 departments, as we mentioned, DSD, DOH, and DOE, and it was a purposive sampling that was used to identify leading participants in the 3 departments. The 3 directors from the provincial directors were identified to be the participants. So that is the director from each of the department at provincial level. And at district level, 3 district ECD managers of the 3 municipal districts, namely OR Tambo, Sarah Batman, and Buffalo City Metro. Next slide. 3 focus group interviews were carried out on the district, and ECD managers from each municipal district, also based on the study objectives. That means that the 3 provincial directors were done individual semi-structured interviews, whilst the focus group was for the ECD managers at district level. Interviews were transcribed verbatim by the researcher, and confidentiality was ensured through the coding of interviewee names. Now, what happened is that the participant responses were themed according to each objective of the study. Next slide. The findings.
A poor understanding of the NICD policy at the district level was revealed. That means that at district level, not all of the 3 departmental district managers understood or even knew about the NICD policy. I'm referring specifically to the district manager for the health department. He had never seen the policy, has never heard that there's a new policy for ECD. He had a clue that there is ECD, but he didn't have any idea what it is all about. Staff shortage at implementation level. This was revealed mostly by the implementing departments like social development and education. Lack of multi-sectoral ECD coordination. Now this was revealed by all participants, starting from the provincial directors and also the district managers. Fragmentation of ECD services because departments were working in silos. The other one at implementation level did not know what was happening regarding this particular program. High number of unregistered ECD centers and lack of funding for infrastructure and inadequate funding of the ECD program as a whole was identified. Discussion. In the Eastern Cape, individual departments were found to operate in a sectoral, poorly coordinated and monitored manner. This is evidenced by the fact that while the DSD and DOD had established a new ECD directorate in response to the NIECD policy, the Department of Health had not established a new, it continued with maternal and child health. There was no new structure, no change according to the policy. Political support was also identified as lacking. This was demonstrated by the fact that the provincial integrated ECD policy that was developed in 2017 had not yet been signed off by the Premier's office. Therefore, it was not implemented. Next slide, please. From this study, it appears that the national agenda setting for ECD was not adequate in the Eastern Cape. It means that from the onset, the other departments, when national introduced this ECD policy, it was not properly introduced in the province, in the other departments, in that the district managers did not, some other district managers of other departments were not aware, they were not involved. And then this resulted in failed implementation efforts at district and local municipality level. Now, what we observed is that at provincial level, the provincial directors, the 3 provincial directors were meeting for the like quarterly, but when some of them, when they come back, they put away the information in their cupboard, whatever, and nothing happens. It's not cascaded to the districts, and therefore no implementation. And because there is no enforcement and no implementation plan, therefore it was not implemented. This study confirmed that the policy ambition of multi-sectoral coordination of the NIECD policy among these 3 departments in the Eastern Cape was not achieved because of failure to cascade it to all the district and local government levels. Next slide. The Eastern Cape recommendations. The Eastern Cape provincial government should use systems theory, that is ensuring that all the departments become the members of this systems of this policy, so that the outcomes that come out is the implementation of this strategy. The draft integrated ECD strategy must be reviewed and approved by the Premier's office so that it can be implemented. And other thing is that it must be monitored and enforced so that the children out there benefit from this policy. And if health is not involved, in implementation of this policy, very little success will happen, because it has got a very big role to play in ensuring the developmental stages, the health of the children. And then a provincial ECD implementation plan must be developed from this ECD strategy. So you can imagine, if the ECD strategy is not implemented, then the implementation plan cannot therefore be implemented either, even if it is developed or not developed, because the strategy for the province has not been approved. And then once all this has been developed, it must be cascaded to the districts. They must know and be taught to implement the plan. And then additional recommendations for further research. Additional studies need to be done in the following areas of the policy cycle in respect of the NIECD policy, examining barriers, challenges, and facilitators in agenda setting in the NIECD policy process. That is the first step, as we know. And then the impact of the NIECD policy on the livelihoods of children and families in the Eastern Cape province. And then evaluation and monitoring in the Eastern Cape of this program of NIECD policy. Thank you for your attention and listening. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate this presentation, and for me it's a sad day to be wondering how many other departments and other provinces are in the same position, that they do not implement these findings. And I see from Prof. Asina that she said, I agree, we need to ask the hard questions before we settle for the answers. And now it is open for anybody. We do have 5 to 7 minutes that we can pose some questions. Prof. Asina, I can see your hand is up. If you want to continue, thank you.
Thank you very much for this presentation, and I've just put in the chat that the findings is not surprising for all sorts of reasons. And one of the things I think that is really critical is the leadership capacity development, because when you go with an integrated system, it is highly complex to get the sectoral response to move to a multi-sectoral response. And when the policy was done, one of the recommendations was to get an agency to be a facilitating body to allow for the collaboration to happen and to develop that kind of expertise that we require. But that was not accepted. So it's left to the departments to do that. So I really feel that we need the leaders there to be capacitated to do their jobs. And like you rightfully said, through systems thinking and through building resilient systems that will serve our children and their families better. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof. Asina. I don't know if you want to comment on that, Mrs. Kula.
Thank you very much, Prof. Asina. I think you are correct. You are in the right direction, but I'm wondering why it was rejected. Because if you look at other countries, really, these three lead departments, they work together. And it is actually a political issue. One of the district manager's response was that I don't want to put my head on the block, but we think that we cannot instruct our colleagues. She was from the social development. We cannot instruct our colleagues to do ABC regarding this policy. But if it comes from the political center core, that is the Premier's office, to say these departments, including the others, by the way, should do ABC, then it's a stronger force that coming from there. So I see this not just as a national problem, but maybe our political offices that have been mandated to ensure that this happens should also be included in this, or even participate in such conferences. Thank you.
Thank you. We really appreciate it. And I also just want to read Prof. Asina's comment on the findings is not surprising. It is a complex policy that requires particular expertise. We need leadership capacity development for this to take off. And I really hope with all these findings that the poor implementation of this ECD policies will get the necessary attention that it needs, because we are really in need of policies with correct systems that it can be implemented, that we have a better way forward. If there is no other questions, I cannot see any other hands raised. I really want to thank our presenter and for the hard work and the findings and the recommendations, and I hope that we can take it further. I thank everybody that attended this presentation. We will now break for lunch. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, colleagues.